Alright, we're going to be in the vacca book on page 26. We're going to talk about models of reading. You will have to know this backwards, forwards, upside down for the rest of the semester and your whole life if you're going to be a teacher. So we're going to talk about these models of reading. And you will be able to recognize when you go into the different schools or when you get that first job, you meet different teachers and you'll be able to see what type theories they have about reading. So the different models of reading. The first one is the bottom-up model. And this is where the instructor assumes that meaning comes from the bottom up, like the name implies, but it's like that you have to know letters and then sounds and then words and then putting those words together to get meaning. Okay? Now, think about your kindergarten and first grade classrooms. How do they present the material? Do they have the alphabet chart on the wall? Well, most classes, you're not going to see a class without the alphabet on the wall. But with a bottom-up, they keep things very, very simple. Is not quite the word. But they use everything knowing the alphabet, knowing the letters. And that has to come before anything else is going to happen. Let me show you some books. You might see a book like this in a bottom-up class. Now, what do you notice about this book? That's right. You see the level right here? Well, on the camera is going to be on this other side. There we go. I'm working backwards here. Alright, so this is a level 1 book. And on the back of this book, it will tell you that here's the different levels, here's what you can expect to see using this. So in the level 1, word repetition, limited vocabulary, simple sentences, and picture dictionary boxes. On the last page, you have pictures. So it's like, you know, your child's first dictionary. So very good. Now, let's think about the content of this book, though. That's a somewhat tough science lesson here. You know, you're talking about life cycles. But when you break it down like this, it seems pretty basic. And they've done it with their very simple language. And they keep it, now look at that, a stickleback. Now that's a big word, and yet the children learn to break it down, stickle and back. So with the bottom up, but this teacher believes that we've got to get the letters and the sounds first. Another example, Henry and Mudge and the Wild Wind. Now I'm old school, Dick and Jane. That's how we all learned to read. In my generation was Dick and Jane. Very, very controlled vocabulary. You did not move up from the yellow book to the red book to the blue book until you completed each book along the way. Alright, but the top-down method, they believe, and let me just read the definition here. The process of translating print to meaning begins with the reader's prior knowledge. Prior knowledge. So they understand that each child comes in with an understanding. They that they know things. So now here's a book that is really just a picture book, but when you really look at it, they give you the real names of all of these books. Now my little 3-year-old loves books like these. And pretty soon he's going to be able to rattle off what all of these words mean. Like, look at this big word. Giant excavator. But he'll be able to tell you that's a giant excavator. He loves trucks, cars, models, anything along this line. So by the time he's in kindergarten, he would be able to just rattle this kind of a book off. Now, even though it's nothing but a picture book, it is building up that vocabulary. But more along the lines of top down would be a book like this. Now, I got this book from a garage sale because my children are Polish. Their name is a Polish name. Their last name is Maslenka. But this book is very much like a textbook. Look at all the words in that book. You know, they give a few pictures, but then there's a lot of words. And yet, a top-down teacher would recognize the child's need to say, wow, what is this book? I want to know about Poland. And so they offer this opportunity, and then the child will get the knowledge that they want. They'll figure out as they go. They can use some of the words and then break down those words. Another example, and I don't have, I always have to borrow it from my nephew, and I forgot. My little nephew is now 12 years old, but from the time he's been 6, 7, 8 years old, he loves superheroes. So he has all of the, I don't know what you call them, like the encyclopedias of superheroes. And it is very much a glossary. It's like an encyclopedia. He will sit there and read it cover to cover. The language is a lot harder than his grade level, always has been, but he's so interested in the subject he's willing to plow through. But teachers that are top down understand that the children will learn what they want to learn. If there's an interest in that, then they will work through it. They can make predictions, they can make guesses about the words. In this top down is a method that we call the language, I've just gone blank, LEA. LEA. What does the E stand for? Somebody help me out. There's no one there to help me out. But the LEA, I guess I'll have to look it up. I have absolutely gone completely blank. The LEA. But an LEA lesson is when you use the child's language enrichment. Oh my gosh, it just came to me. So simple. Language enrichment. But you use the child's own language, and then you make a lesson based on that. So, for example, if I took my nephew and I said, well, you know, tell me a story about your favorite superhero, he's going to go to town with that. He's going to tell me all about the superhero and all of the, you know, the weapons that the superhero has, or all of his, you know, things that he can do, who the arch enemy is. And so he's going to use language based on that prior knowledge. And then I can use that, and let's talk about the reading of that. Spider-Man, let's talk about the SP. What other words do we know that have the sp sound? Right? So you're using that to build lessons. Why does it work? Because it's his language. You're not coming up with some strange word he's never heard before. You're using words that he absolutely knows. Alright, and then the next one, I believe, is what the majority of us tend to fall for, because it makes sense. And that is the interactive. That is when you understand that it does go both ways. You do have to know the letters and the sounds to be able to form words. But we do understand that students come to us with background knowledge. They do know some things. And so there's just a blending of the two. I cannot imagine that as a kindergarten teacher I would have had nothing but basic kindergarten books that they had to know every word in that book. And that's not even realistic. Now, yes, in your in the books that you use for the lessons, Like back to those, the Dick and Jane books, they were very, very scripted. They were very, very controlled. But when it came to just, let's look in the library and let me choose a book and let me see what I want to read, that's not very realistic. And so we have to understand that it goes with, we have to understand that we need both. Now, if you look on 27, there is a chart there. Make sure that you know this chart. Now, think about the words, looking at the bottom of that graph, graphophonemic information. Now, all you have to do with that word is break it down into word parts. Graph means write. Phone is sound. So it's that written, you can write it out, you can sound it out, you know what that word means. And then we've got syntactic and semantic. Now, all of these words you're going to be seeing on the test. They may not be a, just what is the definition of it, but you have to understand what it is that they are talking about. So make sure that you're very, very familiar with all of the vocabulary. Now notice the bottom-up processing, the act of reading is triggered by graphophonemic information, such as letters, syllables, and words. So for you to construct meaning, you know the words. But the top-down, the act of reading is triggered, and that's the key word there. The triggering is where the key word comes in, by the reader's prior knowledge and experience in order to construct meaning. So we have to have, you can see how the interactive model, you can see that you have to have both. Being able to just do one is very, very limiting. Now, if you have not done Flan and Glock down at the bottom, it is a really good idea. And I actually use this with my Hind students. I give them this, and then, I have a little questionnaire. They have to answer the questionnaire. But like Flan is a phlegm. Glock was a plopper. What is a phlegm? What is a plopper? That makes no sense. Those are not real words. And so that's how a child, when they're reading, so many of the words are not, they may not make sense to them because of their limited background knowledge. So what is a phlegm? What is a plopper? Well, when we do this in my class, we throw in some words. And a lot of students, I don't know why, but they always want to make them an animal. So they will say, Flan was a cat. Glock was a dog. And once you put that in, then that changes the whole story. Like, it creates a story. But then we'll change it to Flan was a Democrat. Glock was a Republican. Oh, you see how that changes. But then, no matter what you put there, and you can see that some things have to be nouns. Some things are verbs. And so you can understand the modeling of that paragraph, even though we don't know what half of the words are. And then once you figure it out, you realize it's a story of discrimination. One is not able to do what the other one wants to do. Alright, so I'm going to stop there because my time is going to run out. But go back, make sure you know these pages really well. And I would also suggest you go to the other textbook, look up the bottom up, top down, look at the models of reading, and read it in a different author's words and see if they say anything. I just think by reading it by different people, you understand it a little bit better. So be sure to do that, and I think that will help you.